My name is Richard Rose. I'm a retired Army Sergeant First Class. I served in Germany, Afghanistan, Iraq, Bosnia. Also did some duty in South America, counter drug interdiction, in Colombia and all over South America, Djibouti, Africa, many places. Well, I'm from rural Alabama. We were pretty poor, and I didn't really have a lot of options after high school and the small town that I was in. I figured if I stay here, there's no growth, and the Army was the option that I chose. I thought I would just join for a few years and then go to college, but turned out that I loved the Army, and I stayed for 22 years. I never even realized it. It was just a part of my job, a part of doing what I was doing in the Army. My first, say, minimal combat experience was in Iraq in like the late 90s, the end of 90, beginning of 91 time frame. And we had some things happen there that were, I call them more like a high energy events. You know, things happen, no one got killed, but it's just that your level of awareness and your adrenaline is way up and you're moving fast. A lot of things are going on. I think that's where it started, but it's just more to it than that. PTSD is not one of those things like I don't have it today, I have it tomorrow. It doesn't exactly work like that. In 1995, I was in Bosnia doing actually a peacekeeping mission. But during that time, I was in Tuzla, which is kind of a capital city type area in Bosnia. There were lots of landmines. Even though it was a peacekeeping mission, you got to be on your toes all the time, literally on your toes. Lots of landmines, and the ground was frozen when we got there. When the spring came, everything thawed out, and places where I had walked in the wintertime, those places exploded once it warmed up. So that was like, that was very dangerous. I didn't realize it, and from then on, I was more cautious and more cautious. And we lost soldiers to landmines in Bosnia. But multiple events, not just those combat kind of events. While serving in Germany, we had a soldier, we were getting ready to deploy somewhere, and we do what's called a railhead, where you load vehicles onto the train. And loading those vehicles onto the train, a soldier walked through the two pieces of train just as they were linking, and he got crushed between that train track, and he didn't die immediately. So we witnessed all of that. So I think all of those kinds of traumas and more combat trauma in the future, all of those types of traumas have led me to experience episodes of PTSD. Some of the symptoms I deal with my PTSD, everybody's PTSD is different, but my PTSD, I have lots of sleepless nights. Typically I don't require a lot of sleep, probably about 4 to 5 hours a night is about what I sleep, and that would be a good night's sleep for me. But some nights I just don't go to sleep. I have trouble sleeping. Not all the time, but that's one of the main things. And the other things are just, when I first realized that I had an issue, was just being in crowd, noisy places. That was one of the biggest triggers. I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to leave the area. And then over time, it's like, I get it. Now I understand. PTSD affects your family. It affects everyone who's involved, the caretaker, the sufferer, the children. I have 2 children home now, but I have older daughters who dealt with me during high moments of distress for dealing with PTSD and outbursts of anger. You can be triggered and be angry very fast. As a soldier, you're trained to, most people have a fight or flight kind of response to things, but in the Army, you kind of train to just fight. So there's no flight, and so everything is an argument or Never got physical or anything like that, but everything can be an argument until you understand why you're allowing your emotion to dictate your response. And so you have to really train yourself out of it. Well, when I retired from the Army, I wanted to help veterans. After I realized what was happening with me, I went to school and became a social worker. What I discovered during that education process is I think that early on, as far as PTSD for veterans, PTSD affects many people, but non-veterans as well. But for veterans, I think that there should be a process where soldiers are not just seeking treatment in a manic moment or where things are out of hand already. There should be constant treatment and coping sessions integrated within the soldiers or the service members' day-to-day life. It should be something that they do all the time. That will remove the stigma of seeking help. A lot of PTSD happens, people really experience it in a heightened state after they're out of the military because they haven't dealt with it while they were in the military. And so if we can start dealing with that in the military, I think that would help us in the civilian world. As far as in the civilian world, I think a lot of things are already happening. The awareness, people recognize what it is. It's no longer you're no longer shunned if you're a person, like before they called it battle fatigue or they called it other things in the past. But now that it's PTSD, it's a known trauma. We know why it exists. We know how it's developed. And we're developing ways to treat it. So people are more willing to step out and say, hey, I'm dealing with PTSD and I would like to not be involved in this environment. And so people are speaking up on it. And that's the best way to cope with it. Education and being honest with yourself and those around you. That's the best way for me.
You talked about the civilian world. So how was the transition going from being in the field? Was there no difficult transition into working as a civilian?
Absolutely, still transitioning. I retired 10 years ago. I served for 22 years. I retired 10 years ago and I'm still transitioning. The civilian world is different. It's completely different. The way people work, the way people have fun, the way people manage business. Everything is different in the civilian world. In the Army or in the military, it's more regimented. There's some decisions I have to make. There's many decisions that you don't think about that you have to make in the civilian world. Something as simple as what clothes do I wear to work? In the Army, that was very simple. At this time, I wear PT clothes, and I go work out. And I put on my work uniform, my duty uniform, and I do my duty. And so that is a stressor that people don't think of because it's such a small thing. But it's one of those things that leads to other things. Now the stress is, did I overdress? I'm looking at those around me. Am I underdressed? Is this the proper attire for this environment and for my position? And also another big transition as far as working in the military and working in the corporate world is the way people attack tasks. In the military, you work until the task is complete. And the corporate world or the civilian world, you work until the time runs out. Big difference. Completing the task or finishing for the day is not the same thing. The day's not done in the military until the task is done. And so it's hard to stop working. And right now in this COVID time frame when we're working from home, the office is in there. I have to make myself not be in the office because I just want to finish all of my tasks. But they're not life-threatening tasks. And so I have the opportunity to walk away. I have to remind myself, you can keep working, but my family suffers from me not being with the family and spending that time working. I don't think I would be able to cope with PTSD without my family around me. I don't know where I've considering where I come from. I've obtained had a lot of success in my life, and a lot of successful events have happened, but without my family, I don't think I would have had any of that. Family is the balance. It makes me look at what's important to me. I might want to just, I'm having a bad day, I think I'll just go and lay down. But I have a 6-year-old son who says, Dad, let's go play baseball, or let's build something in the garage. And that's important to me. That is it has a grounding effect on me to have those responsibilities. So yeah, family is very important. The one thing I say about PTSD is, as I've stated earlier, PTSD it has a building effect. It's a little building block at a time. You don't just develop PTSD. It's a little block at a time. It has a foundational point. Then you add another layer and another layer and another layer until PTSD manifests itself outwardly. So you have to, I would advise everyone to, especially service members, to take a step back, look at your life, look at those traumatic events that have happened to you and to others around you, and be honest with yourself about how you felt about those events, and seek help where you need to seek help.